on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
This December marks 20 years that I've been on the air. Kicking off on Cyber Monday and throughout the entire week, we're offering the biggest sales in the history of Infowars.com, celebrating my 20 years on air. And we do it by bringing our listeners the very best high-quality products. Free shipping store-wide on Pro Gun, Made in America t-shirts. High-quality water filtration systems. But not just free shipping. 30% off Super Male Vitality. 20% off all colloidal silver. Buy 4, get 1 free. With your purchase of 1 bottle of DNA Force, you get 2 free bottles of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine, absolutely free, a $60 value. We're also offering 50% off a year membership at PrisonPlanet.tv and upping the number of people that can use each membership to 20. 20 years on air, and InfoWars is celebrating it with the biggest sale we've ever had. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Aging starts at the cellular level. When cells become toxic, they die early and aging sets in. In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries. During that period, key patented compounds have focused on mitochondrial growth, nerve growth, and rejuvenation. But no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. We now have the synergistic solution, DNA Force, just one of the key compounds. BioPQQ is backed by major clinical studies and over 175 PubMed-listed published studies. You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.
The average person's life is filled with unexpected challenges. Unlock the energy it takes to defeat these daily beasts with Super Male or Super Female Vitality, specifically designed to assist the body in regulating proper hormone balance to create superior vitality in males and females. Supercharge and conquer your world at InfoWarsLife.com or call 1-888-253-3139.
The government's Department of Homeland Security is buying up loads of ammo. At the same time, they're restricting civilians' rights to own and purchase firearms. Can you put 2 and 2 together? Infidel Body Armor can stop every round, including hollow points and .308 sniper rounds, is reasonably priced and fully legal. But for how long? Go to InfidelBodyArmor.com, spelled I-N-F-I-D-E-L, bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor just won't quit.
For 50 years, we've told them what to eat, what to drink, what to wear. For Christ's sake, Ben, don't you understand? Americans love television. They wean their kids on it. Listen, they love game shows. They love wrestling. They love sports and violence. So what do? We give them what they want. We're #1, Ben. That's all that counts. Believe me, I've been in the business 30 years.
Well, I haven't been in show business as long as you have, Killian. But I'm a quick learner. So I'm going to give the audience what I think they want.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center and the heart of the resistance.
All right, we're back. Arnold Schwarzenegger's not back, but I'm David Knight. I'm back, and I've got Paul Joseph Watson from the UK back. And before we go back to our caller, Eric in Texas, I want to tell you that we have a huge sale going on this week at InfoWars Store. We have our Cyber Week Christmas specials, free shipping store-wide on everything that you buy, as well as a huge, huge discount off of our Prison Planet membership. Normally $59.99, now only $29.95. That's 1 year membership, and you get 7 months free at that price. It's only $2.50 a month. And you can now share that with 20 other friends. To see the news each night as we cover it, each weekday night as it happens, it starts at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, that helps to support our entire operation, the reporters, all of us here. We also have silver is back. We have 20% off of silver, and of course, free shipping in a limited amount. That will also sell out soon, and it's going to take a while for us to get that back in. This is coal season. This is a good time to have a stock of silver in. You can never have enough preparation for this time of year. We also have a super prep pack. That's Silver Bullet and Survival Shield. That's $15 off. And if you buy 4 silver bullets, you get 1 free. We also have DNA Force. Get 2 bottles of Survival Shield free, a $60 value. We have 30% off all Super Female and Super Male products. That's on our store, InfoWars store, and you can see that right there on our website. Now, going back to Eric in Texas, I know, Eric, you held on for a long time. You were talking about how frustrating it was to try to get your friends, both conservative and liberal, to really see what the issue is here, because they are being blinded and misdirected by this red herring of racism. They're not seeing that this is a much broader, much deeper problem than merely racism. And I say merely, there certainly is a component in terms of a statistical disproportionate amount of crime that's in the black community, and a disproportionate number of people. Even if you adjust for that, the number of people that go to prison in terms of black versus white, the system, I believe, is definitely skewed against the black people. But we need to not just say, let's send more white people to prison, or let's send less black people to prison for violation of drug prohibition. Let's look at drug prohibition, for example, and say, this is wrong. We shouldn't be sending anybody to prison, black or white. What are your comments, Eric?
I think you guys are absolutely fantastic and correct. I had a simple idea. It probably didn't originate from me, but how do we, is it possible we can take people like Professor Griff, you know, the real Rick Ross, the real guy, and send them, you know, on a little tour, like a small tour, like, you know, maybe 5 cities or so, just see how it goes, and send them to inner cities. Let them talk to the kids. Let them talk to the violent people, you know, that we really need to change, because there's plenty of good people in those black communities.
True.
You don't hear them on the TV.
And they've had the courage to come on our show and talk about that. And as a matter of fact, Rick Ross was going around in Texas here. That's when Josh went around and filmed him. That's part of our report that we put up. Yeah, I agree. That's a very important message to get out. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Eric in Texas. Let's go to Chris in Nevada. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, good morning, David and Paul.
Good morning. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm a former multi-jurisdictional law enforcement professional myself, having served in 4 different distinct jurisdictions and attended 4 of their different and separate training academies. I wanted to comment on the devised misinterpretation, or made to be misinterpreted, word term crime that is set forth in the probable cause description. Probable cause is described as the facts or circumstances that would cause a reasonable man to conclude that 1, a crime has been committed, and 2, the person accused committed said crime. However, the word term crime has a specifically delineated meaning constituting that of a felony criminal nature set forth in the case Thompson versus Smith, which says for a law enforcement officer to have a permissible purpose to be in the presence of an individual to make further inquiry, he must be able to articulate with extreme specificity the facts or circumstances that would cause him to conclude that 1, a particular felony crime had been committed, and 2, the circumstances that would cause him to conclude that the person he was stopping had some reasonable basis for relating to that felony crime.
Okay, so what do you think about these 2 indictments here? What's your opinion of them? Should there have been grand jury indictments?
Well, what you're seeing there is what's referred to in law as lex loci emptori, the local law of the emperor. Common parlance is called hometown. Whenever the jurisdiction that you're in is paid for, all the police, the prosecutors, the judges, has their veritable financial liability on the line, it's to their particular interest to have the pre-concluded accumulation of the grand jury, or purported, it's probably a jury trial rather than a trial by jury specifically, But like you observed, in fact, I really have to compliment Lionel that was on here earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He was an immensely knowledgeable, experienced prosecutor, but he was more of a defender.
Mm-hmm.
But these insinuations for the prosecution in league with the judge in their particular court can put their thumb on the scales of justice and use their prosecutorial and judicial discretion to influence the presentment. And, of course, the counties have unlimited resources to develop the evidence and pick and choose or cherry-pick the evidence that's most effectuous to the presentment of their point or political agenda that they wish to put forth to the jury.
Yeah, and going to that, in the case in Ferguson, Missouri, for example, what we have learned as some of these records have been released, and they're typically not released out of grand juries, we learned things like Darren Wilson was allowed to wipe any and all blood off of himself. He was allowed to wipe off the gun, which was a key part of the story, that he was wrestling with Michael Brown with his gun, and he was able to wipe that off. So they couldn't verify that they had any fingerprints of Michael Brown on the gun. We also know they didn't record the conversation. We know that the officer who investigated the scene of the crime said he didn't really see any need to measure the distance between the police car, the police officer, and Michael Brown when he was shot. All of these things start to come out of the grand jury trial, and so you look at this and you say, well, did we really have a fair hearing here? I think that what's going to happen is certainly it's going to move to a civil venue, and there's still going to be some liability there. Of course, the taxpayers will be the ones who will wind up paying that, but I wonder if these guys were criminally convicted, these police officers, because of their training, because of the way they've been equipped and trained. I wonder if they would in turn sue the city for damages because they were doing what they were trained to do. Paul, did you want to comment on this?
Yeah, just on the Brown case, I mean, the ballistics and the blood splatter show that Brown's blood was on Wilson's gun. The autopsy results also show that Brown's thumb was grazed by a bullet, which directly suggests that there was a struggle for the gun and that Brown tried to grab Wilson's gun, backing up Wilson's testimony. Also, the eyewitnesses, many of them told the police that they were intimidated by other people living in the immediate area to verify this myth that was created by Brown's accomplice in the robbery of the convenience store, which was that Brown had his hands up when he was shot. The autopsy results, again, say that that's false. They say that the claim that he was shot in the back is false. So a bunch of witnesses basically got caught lying, and then the ballistics, the blood spatter, the autopsy results do back up Wilson's account, which is why I base my judgment on that evidence, and which I believe is why the grand jury acquitted Wilson.
I don't really want to get into rehashing all the details of the trial and everything. I think, though, what the documents that we've seen come out of the grand jury, I think, show that there's a very different standard of evidence. For example, if I, as a private citizen, were involved in a shooting and I wiped all the fingerprints off the gun, that might in and of itself be probable cause to have a murder trial or something for me. So there's a very different standard of evidence. There's a very, they have a law enforcement Bill of Rights that was put in by Senator Joe Biden after multiple times that give a very different approach, a very different presumption, special protections with the police unions and other things that allow the police to actually have a superior Bill of Rights, which of course they don't pay much attention to our Bill of Rights, but they get a special privileged approach to all this, and that's what I see coming out of some of these records, coming out of the grand jury, which I think is more relevant in the broader scheme of things, whether or not Officer Wilson was justified in that. And again, I don't want to make it so much about Wilson versus Brown or black versus white, because this is a very broad problem, and we have a lot of systemic bias, a lot of systemic corruption, and we have a lot of systemic training for violence that's going on this. Let's go to Sean in Tennessee. Sean, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing? Former police officer. I also help teach Constitution and statutory law with the Upper East Tennessee Research Institute. One thing I wanted to talk about was the fact of jurisdiction. We keep talking about all these entities getting away with everything they're doing, including the militarization of the police nowadays. Problem is, like in the Bundy Ranch issue, remember he kept saying, I don't have a contract with the federal government and they don't have jurisdiction.
Yes.
The FBI cannot write you a speeding ticket on a roadway because they only have jurisdiction within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States.
Yes.
And that is Washington, D.C. And we keep believing the myth that the United States of America and the United States